Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of our Raw Reaction series, joining you at 8 a.m. Monday to Saturday. Hope you're doing good and, well, enjoying what is left of this week. We're halfway through. It's hump day. It's Wednesday. Hope you're doing and enjoying what has been, especially in the UK, the weather has been ridiculously up and down. 2 days ago, it rained and then it was sun, and then it hailed and then it was sun, and then the sky exploded because that was just what was coming next. It was ridiculous. So I hope you're enjoying your week because it's been pretty mental here in the UK. But good morning, everybody in the chat box. Thank you for joining. Good morning to Tony, to Matt G, to Simon, to Martin, to Simon. Someone getting in there, France. From yeah, for those listening on audio, what I've just done is I've read his comment saying he's got in there first, but he's put morning from France. And so that's made me go, he's got in there, France. Great. Fantastic. Thank you, Simon, for that. Morning to Edwin. Morning to Ansa. Morning to Olu. Good morning. Bruce, Rich, Christopher J. Good morning to you. Trevor, Marcus, Chris, Rahil. Good morning, guys. Hope you're all doing good. And, well, I'm going to have to make that a thing now. Good morning, France. Good. Thank you for joining France. That's going to be great. Morning, everybody in the chat box. There is a poll, of course, for you guys to vote on as well as always. We're going to be focusing a little bit on midfielders, considering that is the focus of today's transfer links. And the question in the chat box is Partey, Xhaka, Lokonga, El Neni, Patino, and one top signing enough for Arsenal's midfield next year? I've asked you yes or no. Where the no is, I'd like you to tell us why in the comments. If you're watching this on catch up or you're watching this on Spotify, jump over to YouTube and make sure you tell us in the comment section if you aren't happy with those players as the midfield for next season. Why not? And who else needs to come in as well? So let's get cracking on with today's stories. As first of all, by telling you to go and subscribe to the Arsenal Way. I'll be live over there at 10 a.m. with Bailey to discuss all things Arsenal and more. Plenty of discussion topics to be had. Thank you all of those that tune in for this one and then jump over to that at 10 a.m. I understand, of course, a lot of you have work and a life, but still, thank you for coming over and joining us. That's not to say, by the way, that those that do don't have work or a life. You know, I'm just digging a hole now. I'm going to move forwards, but thanks, guys. Moving on. Yesterday, we completed our tactical breakdown show on Aaron Hickey and Federico Dimarco. They topped the left-back list, supposedly, for Arsenal this summer. So make sure, if you haven't already, to go and check out our tactical breakdown on the left-back pairing that we could see Arsenal sign either one of them. They both come out pretty well in the end. Moving, though, to our stories for the day. And Ben Foster has said that he would be willing to take up Arsenal's second goalkeeping choice. However, he may have forgotten that Arsenal already have signed their second goalkeeper, Matt Turner. If he would be willing to come in as Arsenal's third choice, I don't think I'd be too annoyed about that. Obviously, I would have competition then as an Arsenal content creator, because assuming Ben would come in and vlog every day at training. But yeah, I don't mind that. We were talking about this in the last week, weren't we, about the idea of an experienced goalkeeper coming in as possibly our third choice. I think that could work for us. I think Ben Foster could be that third choice experienced goalkeeper to give kind of the guidance to those younger keepers that are at the club. I'd be very, very happy with that as a free transfer to come into the club as a third choice. I think we lean too much on Arthur Okonkwo. Moving forwards, Lucas Torreira has come out and said that his plans are to remain with Fiorentina, despite the fact that Fiorentina now have run out, seemingly, of time to activate their €15 million release clause in the Uruguayan's contract that he signed on loan last summer. But he himself has come out in an interview which is only going to strengthen the position of Fiorentina in any possible negotiations, saying that he would like to join. That said, Napoli are another side still said to be interested in signing Torreira this summer. Fiorentina may see this plan backfire if Torreira does intend to go somewhere else. He did mention staying in Italy as a preference. However, someone else who wants to stay in Italy as a preference is Pablo Mari. Spent time on loan with Udinese in January through to the summer and impressed. However, the likelihood of him moving back to Udinese has taken a bit of a hit as their managerial situation continues to rumble on. They also can't afford the £14 million asking price that Arsenal put on his head, because that's how much they ended up paying Flamengo for Pablo Mari. Quite a lot, it turned out to be in the end. They want to get as much of that back as feasibly possible. But Udinese aren't really in a position to spend that amount of money on a 27, 28-year-old centre-back. But that may change with the new coach. if they indeed do get a new coach. But we'll have to wait and see where Pablo Mari ends up going this summer. Also, another player that we'll have to wait and see where they go is Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Roma have no interest in making that deal for the former, well, current, I suppose, he's not retired, England international. Bringing him into the club in January, didn't play all that much, did at the start, but very quickly dropped to the bench and failed to get regular game time. He will return to Arsenal with, I believe, just the 1 year remaining on his deal. He will then need to find a move elsewhere or be stuck in the squad for another season until his contract expires. Hector Bellerin, another player with just a 1 year remaining on their deal. Betis continuing to struggle to agree a deal with Arsenal. He said multiple times in the media that he wants to return to Betis. However, yesterday there were links with Roma. They've obviously lost, as we've just mentioned, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, but could be looking to try and bring Bellerin into the club to replace Ainsley Maitland-Niles as a possible option. Very interesting indeed if this is to happen, but Hector Bellerin will move on from the club this summer after being told there are no plans to keep him and get him into the team next season, with, of course, links to right-backs in the form of Nahuel Molina and Hickey, who can play right-back as well. And the fact that we've got Tomiyasu and Cedric is going nowhere with Brooke Norton-Cuffy coming through. So Bellerin will move on. It is just a question of where at this stage. Now, Alexander Zinchenko has been told by Manchester City that he can leave if they get a reasonable offer. What that reasonable offer and what the price range of that is not yet known. I would imagine it's something between the 20 to 25 million pound figure, which, when you consider his Premier League experience, how many times he's won the title now, and his versatility, and I mean, just in terms of his character, I like him as a player. 20 to 25 million pounds is probably a fair price for a player of Zinchenko's quality. If Arsenal were to get him into the team, they'd be adding certainly strength in both left back and central midfield areas, thanks to that versatility. Very interesting to see where he ends up this summer. Our penultimate story is on Fabian Ruiz. It's said now that Napoli's price of that 16 million pounds, remember we were talking about that a fair few weeks ago, surprise, surprise, that's now gone up. 25 million pounds is De Laurentiis' price, the Napoli president, for Fabian Ruiz, who also has just the 1 year remaining after rejecting the latest contract proposal. Arsenal and Manchester United are the two teams credited with an interest in him. He would be a really good upgrade, in my opinion, on Granit Xhaka. Offers so much more in terms of passing, even defensive quality, dribbling, technical skill than I think Xhaka does. Is younger, can get better, and can improve. He's still got that physical presence to him as well. Not the quickest in the world, and I know that means a lot to a lot of people, but not necessarily to me. I think that he would be a really good addition. 25 million pounds is a fair price, but if we can get it for cheaper, even better. Manchester United, though, would be Arsenal's main competitor to try and sign the Spanish international this summer. And lastly, Fabrizio Romano confirming that Arsenal are still very much interested in trying to sign their primary midfield target, Yuri Tielemans, but that two other teams are also in the race to sign him, and this is one that's expected to kind of run. So for those that are going, why aren't Arsenal getting their business done quickly? Well, this is one of those deals that's going to take some time, it seems, to get finished. He is, of course, away with the Belgian national side right now, and then we'll go on holiday after his proper season finishes. Then that is when the deal will most likely take place. As we've said before, end of June, start of July is when we'll probably see most of these deals happen. I wrote a piece yesterday about the idea of replicating that Alexis Sanchez style hype that we got when he signed and made his debut in the Emirates Cup. It would be great if we'd have all of our business done by that point so that we can get that same kind of morale boost into the crowd, seeing new signings play at the Emirates Cup in the last weekend of July against Sevilla. That would be a really good option. If we can get them in even earlier than that, obviously that's a preference. But as long as they're coming in before the start of the brand new season, that needs to be where Arsenal's head is at for sure. That completes all of today's stories, which means we're going to move on to you guys in the chat box. If you indeed do have any questions that you'd like to see answered to the best of my ability, of course, then please throw them in there. If you haven't already dropped a like on the video as well, please do that. We'll be doing another show this evening, 6 p.m, a great discussion podcast. I'm looking forward to showing you all. And I'm sure you'll all join us at 6 p.m. to throw in your questions and get involved in the chat box as per. Without further ado, though, let's crack on and get to your questions. Okay. Keith says, is the window actually open yet? The window opens on the 10th of June for England domestically, but players, if you were to sign them from abroad, wouldn't be able to be registered until July the 1st. So there's the 2 dates there in regards to kind of the window. So if we wanted to sign someone from, say, if we want to sign Jesus, you could sign him from the 10th of June. If you wanted to say sign Fabian Ruiz, you'd have to wait until July 1st until that was kind of registered. That doesn't necessarily mean that you can't announce signings, that you've made an agreement with a player. That's just when you kind of register those players. You know, you've seen Aston Villa sign Coutinho and Boubacar Kamara and Diego Carlos. It's Diego Carlos, isn't it? Yeah. Those have been kind of announced and sorted, but you don't have to actually wait till the window opens for that to happen. But that is when the official dates of the window opening are. Alan says, Tom, Gakpo or Gnabry? Gnabry for me. Gakpo would be a very close second, but if you can get Gnabry, go get Gnabry. Absolutely. Duval, UK, thank you so much for tuning in for your first live show. Really appreciate that. Anne says, we can't rely on Partey's health, and when he's down, is Lokonga's form going to be reliable enough? El Neni is good, but not good enough. Patino and the young players are unproven. We need more at central midfield. Chalongu says, are we strongly linked with any free agents? The honest answer is not really. I mean, we talked about Ben Foster a second ago. He's a free agent after leaving Watford. Could come in as a possible third choice goalkeeper. He himself has created that link, though, it seems. So, no, we're not actually linked with, off the top of my head, any real free agents this summer, which is interesting because I thought maybe we would take advantage of some of the ones that have. I mean, there are quite a few, the likes of Corentin Tolisso, etc. You know, Paul Pogba, Paulo Dybala, all these players were free. I thought maybe Arsenal might try and take advantage of one of them, but not yet. Has not happened. Steve says, Ainsley Maitland-Niles could still do a job for us, especially when it comes to Europa League games. He's a utility player. He could do, but I think I'd rather see us move him on and bring in some fresh bloods. I think his time at Arsenal is kind of done and up at this point. Kudari says, how dependent are our buys this summer on our sales? Will we buy even if we don't generate enough money from sales? Yes, we will. Our buys are not related to the number of sales we've got. I think depending on how many we buy might start to relate to that. So obviously we can sign a number of players without worrying about sales. But if we want to go the extra mile and sign a few more, we're probably going to have to wait until we've made a few players, more so because of the quotas and the wages on the squad and getting them off the books. But we can still sign without necessarily guaranteeing ourselves significant kind of backing through player sales. Let's go to Sai, who says, hi, don't feel like players like Ruiz and Jesus are big upgrades on what we have. Why don't we go for players like Frenkie, who are clear upgrades? It would be interesting to see how, Fabian Ruiz compares stylistically and statistically to someone like Frenkie de Jong. De Jong has obviously been a really good player for a number of years, coming from Ajax, going to Barcelona. But what I would say is that he hasn't been perfect, for Barcelona, and there is a reason why they'd be willing to maybe move him on this summer. Ranks very highly on FBref. Just having a look at his statistics alongside Fabian Ruiz on FBref as well to kind of get a comparison of the two. But they both rank very highly, in terms of goals. Fabian comes out on top quite significantly, 20 percentiles higher than that of Frenkie de Jong. Passes attempted coming out in the 97th percentile compared to the 83rd percentile Frenkie de Jong. De Jong comes out slightly better in terms of pass completion, but I'm sure if we get linked to kind of these two, we'll make sure, we'll definitely be doing updated versions of our tactical breakdowns. We've already done one previously on Fabian. We will be doing an updated one on him as soon as feasibly possible. MC says, never forget when Gnabry destroyed Spurs in the Champions League. Do whatever it takes and bring him back. Let's go to half South African, who says, do you think the lack of interest shown in Basuma is related to, yes, I would say the alleged case that's going on at the moment? I would definitely say that that's a factor. We still haven't got any kind of clarity on that situation. John says, hi, hit Tom. I know you meant hi, Tom, John, but that's a bit far. How common are buyback clauses for player sales? Not that common. You don't tend to see them. Arsenal, I don't even remember the last time we have, if ever, included a buyback clause. Real Madrid famously did quite a few of them. Morata, Casemiro, of course, with Juventus, and Porto for Casemiro. They've done a few of them. Arsenal don't tend to do them. Sell-on clauses are certainly something we have. We've inserted sell-on clauses into the likes of Joe Willock, in the likes of Dinos Mavropanos, Guendouzi. All of these have got sell-on clauses in. But buybacks, no, we don't have buyback clauses. Coop says, I think we need Tielemans and Basuma or a Sangara to challenge Partey. Mac and Cheese Gaming says, morning, Tom. Do you think if we get Tielemans, Ainsley Maitland-Niles would be as good part as of that midfield rotation? He's been excellent for us in the past and his loan was poor, but so was Eddie's at Leeds. To be fair, Eddie's at Leeds was more so associated with injury. I wouldn't necessarily describe his loan as poor. He was, when he was being given opportunities, he was doing okay. He was recalled because he wasn't being given enough chances, and he was going to be given a chance until he got injured. It was kind of an unfortunate loan spell, whereas I think for Roma, Maitland-Niles just hasn't been good enough to get the regular game time. Wes says, Tom, are you going to do comparisons between Ruiz and Tielemans? We certainly will be. I'll be looking forward to doing a tactical breakdown on Yuri Tielemans very, very soon. Wes says, how many players do you think we need to make us a team that can compete at the level needed to get back into the Champions League next season, taking into consideration how injury-prone Tierney and work event Partey are? I think that I've targeted 7 signings. I've said goalkeeper, versatile fullback, 2 central midfielders, 2 strikers. One of them could be Eddie Nketiah's renewal, and a wide forward as well that can play more centrally too. So I think 7, including Turner, who's already been signed, and Eddie Nketiah's renewal. I think if you add 7 into the squads that we don't already have, and Nketiah, we don't technically have him now because his contract's run out, then that would do it for me as enough to compete. It would depend on obviously who those players are as well. But yeah, 2 centre mids, 2 forwards, and a wide forward. So 3 forwards overall. And I think the wide forwards have to have the capacity to play centrally if you need them to. A left back that can play right back as well. And the goalkeeper. Arguably a centre back could come into it, but Saliba returning will feel like a new signing. That famous saying that we've all got so bored of time and time again. Yes, half South African Gakpo would absolutely go for. Absolutely. Gonzo says, do you think people put too much stock into players' prices, like Ben White being too expensive even though he was a perfect fit for our system? Yes, and Ben White has definitely been affected in terms of how people view him from a price point. He was also affected because of the whole Williams-Saliba situation. The fact of the matter is Ben White's had a very good season. Ben White's been very good for us. I like what he's brought to the team. He's significantly stepped up what was there already. And it was also allowed Saliba to get that season on loan that he desperately needed. We've upgraded our centre-back position so significantly. If you consider the fact that we previously had Mustafi, Socrates, and I'm trying to think, Koscielny, I suppose, when at the end of his career, but we've also had other players that just haven't really cut it. And now we've got Gabriel, Ben White, Saliba, and, still have Rob Holding at the club as well, who does a decent job when called upon in one-off games, not over a prolonged period. But yeah, it's a really significant step up in the centre-back area for the players that we now have. But yeah, look, Ben White is one of the most underrated players in the team, without a shadow of a doubt, and gets undue criticism for his performances this season. Marcus says, Aziz to go on loan again. Yes, I think he does need that loan next season. I think that's what we need to see happen. Abanaz says, hi, Tom. Is Brooke Norton-Cuffy ready to compete as the second right back? Honestly, I couldn't tell you for sure. I'd need to see him in pre-season with the players. I've only seen him play for Lincoln this season. He looked, well ahead of the players in that league. So he is above a League One standard. Whether or not he's that Premier League standard, we have to wait and see. Awar is available on the cheap, Mali. There's a reason why, and for that reason, I wouldn't go for him. 101 Collective Beats says, with Arsenal looking to add players like Tielemans, Hickey, Jesus, Saliba, and maybe Gnabry, where can we finish next season? We have to look to qualify for the Champions League. That's the minimum expectation for me next season, is qualifying for the Champions League. Unless there is some incomprehensible kind of injury issue or something ridiculous that affects us, there is no excuse for us not to try and finish in the Champions League qualification places, be that top 4, be that a Europa League victory. That has to be the minimum expectation for me next season. David Lincoln says, we will copy Man City's format, 1 striker coming in and multiple attacking players who can all switch from right to left. I wouldn't put that past this actually being the situation. Keith pointing out a very important point. The 3rd anniversary of Jose Antonio Reyes' passing. Loved watching him play. Me too. He was one of my favourite players growing up as a kid. And when we brought him in during that mid-season of the Invincibles year, the goal he scored against Middlesbrough in the following season, things like that, stick out for me. So thoughts, as always, with Jose Antonio Reyes, his family, and taken from us far, far, far too soon. Axel says, I'm late, so don't know what has been said. For me, I think we should sign 2 midfielders with Europa League and an injury-prone Partey. I would like us to sign 2 options, Gini Wijnaldum and Tielemans. For me, I'd go for Gundogan and Tielemans, personally, would be my 2 picks. Let's have a quick check on that poll that we put into the chat box. 47% of you have said yes, dropping to 46% just now. It's going between the 2. And 54% of you have said no regarding is Partey, Xhaka, Lokonga, Elneny, Patino and one top signing enough for Arsenal's midfield next year. I think that no. I lean towards no because I think we need the 2. I agree that the injury issues of Partey, the questions over Elneny and Lokonga, and that of Xhaka as well, of course, who I'd like to see a genuine upgrade on. I'd like us to bring in 2 central midfielders. Whether or not we do that is another thing. There is over 400 of you that have voted on that poll. There's over 700 of you in the show, and yet only 119 likes. If you could, please drop a like on the video. It really, really does help us out. I saw that someone did leave a comment. I wish I could remember their name, but it's completely escaped me. That said they don't leave a like on the video because they use their like button as something to click on videos that they're going to go and watch back again. I completely understand that. That's fair enough. What I would say is that you can create playlists on YouTube. So, use your like button as least sparingly as possible. Smash it just constantly on all the videos. It really helps out content creators. You can create playlists on your own YouTube account without a problem. Arts the YouTuber says, hi, Tom. If Arsenal sells Saliba for £45 million and replace him with Tapsoba, would you be happy? Happy's a word. Tapsoba's a very, very good player. But I'm really desperate to kind of see what Saliba does. 45 million would be a great price for a player that, has never played for us. But I really want to kind of see Saliba and what he's got and what he's there. And I'd always wonder what could have been had he have played. He might go somewhere else and flop or succeed, but it doesn't matter because whatever happens at Arsenal is completely different. So I really genuinely hope that Saliba stays and that we can see what he's got for us next season. Axel says, did anyone listen to the Counter Attack podcast with Tavares? Listening to his team of the season, it's quite an entertainment. I enjoyed it a lot listening to it. I thought he spoke very well and actually quite maturely about being substituted early as well. Definitely want to check out if you haven't done so already. And there's a watch later playlist as well on YouTube. So there you go. There's education as to why you can still like the video and not lose the videos that you'd like to watch. Amira says, hi, Tom. If we do bring in Zinchenko, do you see him as just a versatile depth player, or do you see Arteta playing him purely as a left 8? Could he do a Joel Linton and thrive in a new position? Zinchenko doesn't necessarily have the midfield as a new position per se. He's played there several times, for his senior career for Ukraine and for Manchester City. So he could play there very simply. And I think he could work. I think you could look at him as someone that gives us the extra in midfield. Say we sign Zinchenko, I don't think that necessarily means we had to add the 2 central midfielders because he would give us that extra kind of cover. Still need to sign that top quality midfielder for sure, but I think Zinchenko would provide us with significant cover as well. Junior says, Tom, we conceded more goals this season than last season with a supposedly better defence. A team that had Mustafi, Kolasinac, Luiz and Bellerin performed better defensively. Disagree, Junior. We actually kept more clean sheets this season than we have done since, I think, 16-17. And when you consider how many games Kieran Tierney, Thomas Partey and Tomiyasu all missed during this season as well, I think that's actually quite impressive. So we can all talk about the number of goals we've conceded, but actually when it mattered across individual fixtures, we kept more clean sheets than we have in the best part of 5 to 6 years in the Premier League. People get bogged down in the number of goals we conceded. The thing is, we already conceded 9 in the first 3 games, and we didn't really have any of the players available to us. We've lost players due to injury. And also because it's a very young side, when we conceded more because, the heads dropped, that mentality, that maturity, that experience wasn't necessarily there. But I disagree with you, Junior, because, the number of clean sheets that we've kept, I think, disproves any point about the fact that we've gone backwards defensively. Manu says, hi, Tom. Didn't Saliba break some sort of record with his 3,044 completed passes or something? He'd be perfect for us, and we should make him feel wanted. He's young and impressionable. Yes, he is young and impressionable, and I think that's why you're seeing some of the comments come out. I think that he's a young guy that when he's in an environment that he's wanted, as he is at Marseille, he's going to want to feel that attachment. Well, hopefully we can make him feel wanted at Arsenal. Arsenal fans, we've got to do our thing. We've got to make him feel wanted. We've got to keep telling him to come back. We've got to keep telling him how much we want him to stay here. When he gets back, we want to give him those huge cheers in the ground when he gets integrated into the team, because Arteta said that he has to come back and he has to come into the team. We're going to offer him a brand new contract. Let's wait and see. But yes, he did. I think there were some passing records that he broke. It was a joke how good he was from a passing perspective in Liga last year. Premier League's a different step up. We know that. But let's wait and see. I, for one, hope that he flourishes. Yasin says, would you keep Saliba even though he doesn't sign a new deal? In my opinion, we will have to sell him if he doesn't sign a contract extension. I feel like we need to see what happens. I think it might be that we can keep him with a year left on his deal, get him to sign a contract extension at the end of next season. I think for me, if I was Saliba, I wouldn't sign it. For speaking in an unbiased position, taking the Arsenal hat off for a second, I'd say, look, I'll stay for this season. Prove to me that you want me in your team. Let's see how many minutes I'm going to be given, and then we'll talk about a contract after that. I think that would be the most sensible thing for him to do. Cam says, how about games lost? Haven't we lost more last season? Yeah, we have lost more games than last season. Definitely. I think 13, something similar to that. It's only a few more than the seasons prior to that, to be fair. The problem is that, those first 3 games at the start of the season, as I say, when we conceded goals, it tended to go up. The number of games drew have decreased, but we've also won significantly more games this season. 22 wins, I think we had across the season, which is a very, very good amount. We've just got to start turning those losses into draws. But the clean sheet record, I think, goes to show how much we've improved defensively, significantly so. And especially considering the amount of players that we've had out due to injury as well, has definitely affected the defensive side and how consistent we've been able to be this season in a defensive position. Neil says Konate is underrated and Ben White is overrated. The overpriced English tax. Overrated in terms of price, Neil, but certainly from the way that you're talking about Ben White in an overrated fashion, it's mad. Ben White is an incredibly underrated player by the Arsenal fan base, not necessarily by the wider community. This is someone that when he signed, people were laughing at him. Varane, Koundé, who never started joining in the end for Chelsea, and Konate coming in. Ben White was better than Konate this season. Konate's had a brilliant, by the way, Champions League final, did Konate. But, Ben White has had a better season than what Konate had for Liverpool. He hasn't been given as many chances because he's still acclimatising, and that's fair. It's going to take him time to acclimatise, and I would expect Konate to get better than Ben White in the future. I think he's got a bigger potential than that of Ben White. But last season, Ben White was better than him and better than a lot of centre-backs. That's the reason why he got into the Arsenal's top 5 player of the season list for the year. That's why he's gone into the England international setup too. I just don't get the hate for Ben White. I really don't. Some people talk about him in really derogatory circumstances, and it's not respectful at all. He deserves praise. He deserves, for taking that step up to Arsenal from Brighton and doing as well as he did and changing the way that we play out from the back is in part why we've got as many wins as we do, because we've changed the way that we've played, and it's certainly helped us. The price doesn't affect him. And as Trevor says, the price has nothing to do with Ben White. It needs to get off. We need to disassociate that price when we're considering the performances that he's putting in. He isn't worth more than 50 million yet. He was bought for a price that is going to see him try to achieve that. It was an investment. It wasn't a savvy, shrewd bit of business. It wasn't like an Ødegaard or a Ramsdale where you've bought them for less, now they're worth more. It was a price tag that is basically a target for him at this stage to be worth in the future. Wenger Boy says, besides City and Liverpool, which other team concerns you the most for next season? Of course, Chelsea is going to concern me. Of course, Spurs will always concern me because of Antonio Conte, Kane and Son and the players that they might bring in. So obviously, those players do. I'm intrigued by what Ten Hag will do at Manchester United, but I feel it will take time for that to gel, work, and get to where he wants it to be. Akshat says, Tom, I think the hate for Ben White is born from people making their minds up at the very... Yes, absolutely. And that's certainly something that's associated with a lot of Arsenal fans. If you've said that you don't like a player or you didn't want us to sign a player and you've put that out on social media, or you were jumping into YouTube comment sections when he signed, criticising the signing of Ben White, it's very, very difficult to then see him do well and then hold your hands up. On a whole, the Arsenal fan base, or certain sections anyway, it's very hard to admit when you're wrong about something. We do it here all the time because it's part of football. It's part of opinions. You get stuff wrong. It's just what happens. I've certainly been wrong about Arteta. I wanted him gone after Villarreal. I wanted him gone after Manchester City. He changed my mind this season turned me around to wanting him at the club for next season and seeing where he would take this team and seeing what would happen. There have been certain players that have really changed. I had a few doubts about Gabriel at one point. He's really turned things around. Partey, I thought was going to be, God's gift, effectively, but he has underperformed in my expectations. I've been disappointed by Partey, and what I wanted from him, I wanted a lot more. Yes, affected by injury, but even some performances have let me down. I want to see a better Partey next season. Football's about opinions, and you're going to be wrong. It's just part and parcel of it. It's about then holding your hands up, admitting that you were wrong. That is quite tricky to do. Samia says, Tom, does the running power and robustness in a midfield of Partey, Xhaka, and Tielemans Lokonga concern you, keeping El Neni out of it? Partey's got great running power when he's available. Lokonga too has got a really good engine. Xhaka and El Neni less so. I think that we've got players in there that give us running. We might need someone a little bit more technical to bring into the team, but I don't rely on pace for a midfielder. I really don't. I prefer kind of smart, intelligent in terms of positioning, in terms of passing, in terms of progression. That's what I lean on as more of a priority. Yorkshire Gunner says, so Arteta changed your mind. Why? He changed my mind because I was so certain that we were going to go downhill after the Villarreal defeat, and that didn't happen. We went uphill and we're going towards the right direction. I never thought we'd be in a top 4 race this season. I looked to the side. I looked at what we were doing in the market. The market changed my mind. Overhauling the squad, spending 150 odd million quid, improving so many certain positions, improving the culture of the club and, the atmosphere around the stadium and with the team, the improvement of, identifying the fact that we needed a centre-back, needed a central midfielder. He's gone out and brought those two, and Thomas Partey and Lokonga. We now need to see that happen in the striker department. That's the next step for me. And you can still see the style of plays improving as well, what we're seeing on the pitch. So he changed my mind. And what we saw last season certainly made me want to go and back this guy to go into next season and continue that rise. People talk about the Unai Emery finishing 5th and then getting sacked. That 5th place is so different to the 5th place that we finished in last season. The 5th place under Emery was a downhill slope. It was a 5th place that proceeded into going to 8th and then 11th when Arteta took over. The 5th place that we had last season, which, very could have been 4th were it not for some silly injuries and maybe some silly decision-making in January. It's a 5th place that I see us on the rise, not on the fall. And that's very, very different. People will look at the numbers and take them at face value, but there's so much more context that you need to apply around the two. Yorkshire says, what are your expectations for next season? Have to qualify for the Champions League. It's about progression. We have to keep going forwards. If we stop going forwards, you're only standing still, and that is not good enough for Arsenal. So we need to make sure we push onwards and we go forwards and we make sure that we're going upwards, because if we're not, then we need to consider a change. It's as simple as that. Keenan says, need world-class number 8s to alongside Partey. I also think Lokonga is a backup for the new number 8. So a Cheikh Doucouré would be great signing as backup for Partey. Ruiz would allow us to finally sell Xhaka. Gilfie says, why are you putting the 8th place finish of Arteta on Emery? What? I didn't say anything about 8th place. Elliot says, where do you think we would be in the Premier League standings if we did get 7 players we need in the summer? Where do you think we would be if we did get... I would hope if we got the 7 players that I want us to, that we would be able to finish 4th next season. And maybe even win the Europa League on top of that and get, some trophies. That's what I want to see us do. It needs to be progression. We have to move forwards. It's the thing is that people sometimes misunderstand about football is that they look solely at the club they support. They forget the teams around and what they're doing. They're not standing still either. They're trying to improve. They're trying to get better at the same time. They're signing players. They're strengthening their squad, strengthening their coaching setups. And we need to move at a faster rate than them. And you can only do that by spending, and by spending smartly, and by making good decisions. And that's the measure of a coach at the end of the day, is the decisions they make, the players they sign, and ultimately what they do with them. That's what defines a club and their success. Is it all boils down to the players and the manager and what's done with them. Let's go to Joshua, who says, the spies in Tottenham's trophy cabinet have more credibility than Tottenham. Arsenal Addict says, why is no one talking about Bissouma? Because of the ongoing alleged situation that we don't have an answer to. That's why. Rebetsway. I'm really sorry. I'm going to try that again. Rebetsway. I'm really sorry, mate, if I pronounced that wrong, and I'm sure I have. Yuri Tielemans, Florian Grealish, Emmanuel Dennis, Gabby Jesus, Jed Spence, Tyreek Mitchell, Serge Gnabry. If we sign these players, we will have a great season. What do you think? Jed Spence is going to go either to Forest or Spurs. Dennis, I'm not as sure on. I'd much rather see us go for someone. Would I rather keep Eddie Nketiah or sign Emmanuel Dennis? There's a question for you guys in the chat box, because I lean towards keeping Nketiah out of the two, personally. Serge Gnabry, absolutely. Mitchell, I think, is a great option. Grealish, not seen enough of him, but I hear very good things. And Tielemans, yes, would certainly go for. Philip says, Tom, I believe getting Hickey will be good business. Backup left back, backup right back, and also Katie and Tommy can cover at centre back. Also send links today for Morata. No, not for me, mate. Not for me at all. Axel says, how good does it feel to be invested in the team again? For the first time in many years, I'm completely in love with the players and the process. Looking forward to next season. Guy Fawkes says, to be fair, you did say that 5th was a downward slope. Therefore, Arteta finishing 8th in the first time is down to that downward slope, if that makes sense. No, not necessarily, because, you know, we were 11th when he took over. So when he took over in 11th place, we did go up to 8th. We didn't go forwards the following season, but I do think there was a lot of context. But that said, I would have got rid of him after Villarreal, and I've said that, Guy. But no, when people say he took us from 5th to 8th, it's not true. It's just factually not true, because he took over when we were in 11th. So we haven't actually gone down a place since he took over yet, which is something I think people don't really talk about. The Jones says, Arteta mentioned he needs to massively improve the goal threat of the team. Do Tielemans and Jesus do that? Yes, I think they do. But I think we need more. I think we need, a wide forward on top of that as well. Navarro says, Tom, the price is something with Ben White. So what about Pepe? Pepe's not been good. Like, that's the difference. Ben White's been good. Pepe has not been good. And that's the difference between the two when we talk about price. Akil says, are fans underestimating the impact of our young players improving based on last year? Youngest team in the league? Yes, probably. Most definitely. Let's see what happens next season. The Jones says, Arteta mentioned we've already done one. Abol says, I think the squad depth and quality needed why Arsenal is not going for free transfers, but quality players like Dybala, Lewandowski and Tielemans. Lewandowski and Dybala you're not going to get now. Without Champions League football, it was going to be near impossible to get them. Tielemans, though, looks like we could. He's not free, though. He does have a year left on his contract. Will cost probably about £25 million. Tommy says, I cannot wait for Nketiah to bench whichever striker we bring in. People aren't ready for him this season. I hope you're right, Tommy, because if he's starting, it means we're succeeding. Troy says, I don't think Arteta fancies Gnabry. I reckon he will look elsewhere. Why? I'd love to know your reasoning. Iwak says, is there any chance we get both Fabian and Tielemans? There's always a chance. I don't know how many midfielders we're going to go for. I sense it's kind of one, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Neil says, Tom, will you sack Edu? Oh, I won't do anything. Would I sack Edu and bring an experienced sporting director like Michael Edwards? Depends what we do this summer, Neil. I've been impressed by the decision-making of Edu at times and unimpressed at other times. It depends on what we do this summer and how it then affects us next season. So we'll have to wait and see. Jashar says, Tom, it's interesting that Unai only lost 3 Premier League games in the season. He got sacked by the. It's very interesting, isn't it? Still, the fact that we lost just 3 games, and yet I wouldn't say that we were progressing. It's really odd when you look at kind of those individual statistics when we finished 5th, because ultimately we blew 4th place because of his decision making. I feel like we blew 4th place this season because of real bad luck with injuries. Of course, we can point to January, but had Tomiyasu, Tierney, Partey played just one more game, I feel like we would have got 3 more points. Really gutted about that. Peter says, where would you send Balogun? Probably Forest. I think Forest might be a good shout for him to go on loan. Namdi says, hi, Tom. Have you seen Pepe's Premier League stats while at Arsenal without? Yeah, I have. And this is why I always continue to point at it. If you look at Pepe's overall statistics, it's so biased with and padded with the Europa League games. When you look at his goal contributions in the Premier League across his tenure, it just is not reflective of a player that I would want to keep at Arsenal. It just isn't. We need to move on from him, and we've got players at the club that we need to continue with, and he, for me, just isn't one of them. Draw FC, yeah, remember we didn't lose, but we weren't winning. That's for sure. Milin says, unless we get rid of Xhaka, the club isn't going anywhere. No matter which midfielder we sign, we will ultimately have to play alongside Xhaka. I think if you're if your thought process is that our entire club's outcome depends upon one midfielder being here in a negative sense, it points towards probably a personal thing towards Xhaka than anything. Xhaka, last season was really strong in so many games. Had his moments, of course, Liverpool, Manchester City. But Xhaka was one of our better players across last season. And we were in a top 4 race because of his presence in midfield. And when we didn't have him, it did cost us at times. I do want to get better than him without a shadow of a doubt, but I'm not going to sit here and say that he has to go. I just want to upgrade upon him. That's all I want to see us do. Because if we're upgrading on Granit Xhaka, we're getting in a blooming good midfielder. That's for sure. And that's the biggest testament you can give to Xhaka, is by saying, if we're getting someone better than him, they're going to be blooming good. Really, really good. Let's go to Andy, who says, I feel we need to consider the system we play. Backup fullbacks, not good enough. Stop spamming my chat, please. In terms of, backup fullbacks not being good enough, we need to sign some. I hate the word backup. We should never be signing backups. We should be signing competitive players. They're the types of players that we need to make sure that we sign. No one needs to be the only person that I would accept as a backup is the third choice goalkeeper. That's the only position we should ever describe as a backup. Arsenal need to sign players that are going to improve us. Jashar says, draws are better than defeats. They are, but wins are even better. And when you get 22 across the season, that's certainly something to praise. A lot of people are talking more about the losses than the wins. The wins we've got this season have been impressive. Winning again back-to-back at Stamford Bridge, really strong. We've got some big victories this year. We won at places like Wolves and Villa and Leicester that we've really struggled to win at in the past before. We've picked up points in games that we never usually would have done. We've also dropped points in games that we would have done better in should we have had the players available. I have no doubt in my mind that had Partey, Tierney and Tommy been available for Palace, Southampton and Brighton, we come out of those games with such better results than we would have done. Unfortunately, we didn't. And we can point to January, but we weren't asking for a fullback in January. That's for sure. Axel says, not a question, but thanks for making these brilliant 8 a.m. shows every day. Make my morning so good. Let's show our appreciation. Thanks, Axel. That's a really kind comment, and I appreciate your kind words. Navarro says, Tom, Edu said they already got things lined up. Not what is he doing now? It's 1st of June, Navarro. Honestly, the idea that we would bring players in like now was never realistic. There's a plan, and they're trying to execute that plan. We're going to have to wait and see. If we're sitting at the start of the season and we've not made the signings, then I'll give you the time of day to criticize the recruitment. But we're on the 1st of June. It's as simple as that. If you're sitting there and you're criticizing this transfer window today, I think it borders into personal. It borders into personal criticisms of the coach, of Edu, because if you're being measured and grounded and objective about the window, you're waiting. You're waiting to see what happens. You're waiting until pre-season at a minimum, and then you're waiting and see the start of the season to see where we've got our team. It's as simple as that, Navarro. And I think if you're asking for things now, right this very second, I think it's unrealistic. And to blame criticism on that is too far. Neil, if you're comparing January to the summer, I can't help you. They're two very, very different things. Guy says, does anyone know exactly when the window opens? 10th of June and the 1st of July are the two opening dates for both of the windows. Jake says, we must sign a left-back this season. I personally have lost confidence in Tierney's fitness. You're not the only one. Yasin says, would you go for Sice? He's available on a free this summer. Would be great, in my opinion. Not as a starter, but squad depth, and I would be selling, holding. As a free, he might not be a bad shout, to be fair. But he has played a lot in a back 3. So I don't know how he would work necessarily as well in a back 2. I haven't seen him too much. Tommy says, Tom, don't you find it hilarious how some Arsenal fans, go into meltdown before the window has even started? Do I find it hilarious? No, I find it worrying. I don't find it funny, Tommy. I know there is something to joke and laugh about it, but I find it worrying, to see as much as we've done. You see the changes that we've made, and yet we're still sitting here on the 1st of June and battering the club for not being more proactive on the 1st of June. That's worrying to me as a fan base, that the expectations of some are just not realistic. Amira says, which of our last summer signings do you think have increased in value? Ramsdale, Ødegaard. I think that last summer's signings, who else? Tomiyasu. So Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, Ødegaard, they have all improved in value. If they were going to be sold this summer, they'd be going for more than what we paid for them, without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. Ben White wouldn't, because that 50 million was an investment in a player, not a bit of business that you would see their value grow immediately. It's going to take time, I think, before Ben White shows an increase on that value. It might take next season. It might be the season after. We'll have to wait and see. But Lokonga, Tavares, Tavares, ironically, I think Tavares would actually go for more than we sold him for, because more than we bought him for, because he's got that Premier League experience, because he's in he's got that long-term contract. I think those would point towards getting at least 10 million plus for Tavares next season. Lynn says, Tom, I will not judge our club. However, I get fed up by other clubs and pundits taking a poke at us. Lynn, you have to get used to that, Lynn, because that's just what happens. Arsenal are the butt of every joke in the media, it seems, and the pundits. We just got to hope that we do the business. We got to hope that we put in the business next season. We prove them wrong, and we give them something to talk about in terms of praising us. So I'm sorry, Lynn. I hate it too, but it's just part and parcel. We will talk as much as we talk, and we'll big ourselves up as much as we can, and we'll write positively about us and constructively about us. But yeah, if you don't like what others are saying, I would just tell you to ignore them. I know it's hard, but it's what you're going to have to do. Amira says, fans berate the club for not signing anyone, but when the window hasn't even opened yet, but write off early signings like Turner because everyone's an MLS expert all of a sudden. He's not a nobody. Come on. And also, Turner, Marquinhos looks like he's coming in very, very soon as well. It's what it is. Neil says 15 years of drop in standard is also worrying. You're telling me, Kroenke comes in 2007, spends over £1 billion, and we're sitting trying to fight for fourth. That's years of bad decision making. So it's just ironic that when someone comes in and we start making better decisions, that nope, get them gone, get rid. I just don't get it. I find it really strange. You'd think that actually that 15 years of standard drop, you'd be able to recognize when something improves, and yet we can't. Maybe that's just because it's been so bad for 15 years. Maybe it's hard to recognize good decisions being made. Maybe it's that. I don't know. Alexander says, we will need top players even if Partey and Xhaka and Lokonga are not playing. We need players who can take it up from there. Yeah, we do. We need to bring in players that are going to improve us. It's as simple as that, and that's probably the best way to finish today's show. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. Drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are indeed new around here. Always appreciate the discussion and honest conversation. As per, I'll be bringing you a show at 6 p.m. today with some special guests. Make sure that you subscribe and turn those notifications on so you get told when all of our shows drop. If YouTube, gets his finger out and actually decides to tell people when we go live, it would be nice. But I'm telling you now, 6 p.m. tonight. And I'll be live at 10 a.m. over on the Arsenal Way. Link in the description to the channel is in there, as it always is. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Let's do a quick check on the poll. 45% of people said yes about the players that we've already got, plus one signing being enough for our midfield. 55% saying no. Thank you for tuning in, people. And as always, up the Arsenal.